Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic is all about proven conflict resolution. So I'm going to share with you some short, sharp tactics that for you as a business owner, as a sales manager, or indeed as a salesperson, you can better embrace these tactics, reduce the delivery of conflicts within the organization, or more specifically, if you understand the research behind conflict, you realize conflict within a team can prove to amazing breakthroughs and great results. So I want to show you the methodology to use that when you're experiencing conflict within your team, it's not necessarily something that you walk away from, and it's not necessarily something you fully embrace. It's something you handle professionally. We use it as a growth opportunity, even though many people in your life will use that as a bit of a cliche, and it'll be a little bit tongue-in-cheek for that. Today is about proven conflict techniques and tactics that we can use. Now, if you've interacted with us via LinkedIn and other social media platforms, you would already have this handout in play. So you would already receive this. If you haven't, please immediately stop the video if you're watching in recorded form, or simply watch the video, take notes, and then send an email to admin@salesmasterycompany.com and request the workbook for proven conflict resolution, and we'll send you through the guidance in front of you right now. Now, the second page of that guide's got a brief summary about ourselves, just to explain we've spent the last 19 years of our lives serving a lot of small to medium family businesses around the world. Now, yes, we've served a bunch of other corporates, and those are the logos that typically people recognize, as opposed to the clients that we've got, which are often medium-sized businesses, sometimes small businesses, but doing incredible things. And mostly we're here to help people grow their sales, grow their confidence, and grow their profit margins. However, conflict is inevitable. Now, I understand that in a family setup and even in a school setup, it's often something that people try to avoid. The problem in a business setup, when we're being measured, especially on top of that in a sales business setup, is, of course, it can create a real resentment between people. It can break down morale. It can affect productivity, motivation, self-accountability. If conflict isn't resolved, it just festers. Now, I can talk about gangrene, or I can talk about frostbite and the fact that it spreads to other limbs and it can really affect others. Some people talk about it being a cancer. And again, all of those descriptions are very vivid in the medical sense. The reality here is we've got to understand that in a pressured environment, there has to be conflict. If there is no conflict in the pressured environment, everything must be perfect. And what I mean by that is the systems, the software, the team, the skills, the customers, the suppliers, the operations team, the finance team, the admin team, the leadership team, the sales team, the marketing team must all be perfect in the way they operate and the way they communicate. That includes every single one of your customers must be clear and concise in their communication, so there is no openness of getting things wrong. Now, if you stop and think about that for a moment, you realize if you've been in business or in sales in particular for more than about 6 weeks, the reality here is it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you'll be searching for the Easter Bunny next, or possibly even the Tooth Fairy, if you believe that, business could be perfect, communication could be perfect. Oh, it also assumes that no one ever has an off day in terms of their communication. So I want to make sure that you understand it's going to happen. It's not a judgment on you or anybody else that it happens. You might be pointing the finger at somebody else. If I could just remind you that when they created Designed Hands, they designed it in a way that if you point a finger at somebody, there's 3 fingers pointing back to you. Now, this applies to all of your relationships. If you want to take your finger out and do this verbally, you don't often point in this day and age, but do this verbally. Point to someone and say, you know what you need to fix? Just stop for a moment and go, what are the 3 things I need to fix as well, or first? That just takes us down a peg or two, gets us out of the emotional state, and just reminds us in any relationship with a client, a supplier, a colleague, a family member, or a friend, the chances are we've got to this state because we have got to this situation. And I understand there are some instances where the other party is more to blame than you. But when I say more to blame than you, that does not mean you're blameless. So again, there was a famous guy who many years ago, about 2,000 years ago, talked about, with any amongst you without any sin cast the first stone. Now, there's a lot of wisdom in that, even if you don't believe in the religious figure that person was. There's a lot of wisdom in that there. So remember, designed hand, 1 finger out, 3 fingers back. So we have choices. We're going to have conflicts. You're going to have it with your manager. You're going to have it with other departments. You're going to have it with clients on occasions. But let's just talk about internally in particular. We all have choices about how we handle ourselves. People say we all have choices on our attitude every single day. We also have the choice to leave our baggage at the door when we show up at work every single day, because life is challenging, especially the last 3 years in particular. People's lives are challenging. Now, I often get told by business owners, can you just tell my team to leave all their baggage at the door? My response to that is no, because they're people too. It would be good if they all had a bit of a coach or a confidant or a mentor in the business that every once in a while that they could talk to, because some people go through mental health challenges or personal relationship challenges or financial challenges. There's even physical health challenges. It's good if someone knows they've got multiple people in their lives they can talk to, maybe one or two at work, a few in their personal life. The more the merrier on that front. However, the point I think they're trying to make when they say, hey, could you tell them to leave their baggage at home is, could you enable my staff members when they have pressure in their personal lives for it not to affect their mood or their productivity at work? And in particular, we pay people as managers or business owners for productivity and output. What their mood is, unless it's negatively impacting someone else's productivity, really doesn't matter. They can sit in silence for the day for all I care, so long as they do a great job and they don't demoralize somebody else around them. So just keep that in mind. We're probably wanting high productivity. And the question truly is, so Ambrose, how can we better allow people that when they have a tough time at home, because that happens from time to time for pretty much everybody on the planet, how do we make sure they're still productive in a work environment? Well, again, my point is, if they've got someone they can confide in at the start of the day or just agree, hey, at lunchtime, look, do you mind just go for a walk? There's something I need to offload to you. And then that person compartmentalizes the pain or the fear or whatever in their personal life till lunchtime, and then they get on with their work. So please keep that in mind. Likewise, of course, understand we are all naturally biased. We all naturally pigeonhole things, and all of us have an emotional reaction to certain situations. Now, if you think about the extended disc profiling tool, which is one we've been using for nearly 2 decades now, comes out of Finland, for a couple of $100 or whatever it is, well worth profiling yourself and your team members, but also we happen to match people to jobs. We think that adds value. But if you think about the 4 profiles, dominant, influence, steady, and compliance profiles, the compliance profiles are the least emotional people. So they tend to have a least emotional reaction, whereas I's and S's are the more emotional people. So they tend to have more of an emotional reaction. But we all have prejudices. Now, I don't go down the school of thought these days where some people are saying, well, a certain race they're all racist. Because again, I actually quite enjoyed maths at school, although I'm not a high details person. It was something I seem to be able to get quite a good grade at, and I tend to like things I got good grades at. The point is statistically, it's improbable or probably impossible to suggest that one group of people, there's a certain group of people in the world that Australians and New Zealanders on the whole, and again, I have no right to generalize Australians and New Zealand, but I've heard hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people in Australia and in New Zealand comment about one particular continent driving badly. Well, statistically, that's impossible. You can't have, multiple billions of people all driving one particular way, just like you can't have one country all driving perfectly. So generalizations are dangerous. However, we're all influenced by our beliefs and our values and our family and our culture and the country we're in and our seniority and everything else. So please keep in mind that you have bias, they have bias. We still need to resolve the issue. This isn't who's right. And this is, I really have to stress, often what people default to when there's a conflict in a relationship, business relationship, personal relationship, client relationship, whatever, is often who's right and who's wrong. And my question always when I'm been asked to mediate is, what does that matter? Surely the first thing that matters is how are you going to resolve the next steps? And if there was just one thing from today's session I just want to get into your head is, it's not about fault and blame or allocation of that, except if it is an illegal situation where you're apportioning a penalty because of that. And to be clear, 99% or maybe 99.9% of the conflicts you have in your life, there won't be apportioning blame for there to be a payout one way or another or in both directions. So again, you're not a judge, you're not a jury, you're not a lawyer, I suspect, or you wouldn't be watching this. So in those extreme scenarios, yes, I understand that. But generally speaking, the only thing that matters is where to from here. What's happened, right or wrong. We need to get to and understand what happened later on. But the first and the most important thing is how can we get some alignment and how can we move forward? So what you've got in front of you here is a really good conflict resolution process. And I just want to talk you through it if I can. So the first one is, before you go and have a conversation with your colleague, with your manager, with a member of the other department, just make sure you're prepared, but also remind them that they should prepare as well. Because if you can get both parties coming to sit down around the table together, where you say, for example, you need the operations team to dispatch the orders to your best clients quickly, or you need marketing to go and do some presentation for you, or need blast for you, or you need finance to chase up the debt in your customers better, whatever it is. If you need to resolve, get your preparation done, get their preparation done, because then at least both parties have calmed down. They focused on what can I do. It teaches them both to do something. And also both parties have then invested in the future rather than portion blame. Now, some of the time you will, as party preparation, identify what happened to lead us to get to this breakdown of a relationship. But either way, that's all party preparation. Again, it's a good thing to do. You might need to give each other an hour to do it. You might give each other a day to do it. In some cases, a whole week to do that. Then you start the conversation by, if you're taking the lead, which I prefer you do, because if I don't tell you to do it, they might never take the lead. And you sit down and you say, thank you so much for being here together, and you want to build some agreement. So often when there's conflict, both parties think, well, there's nothing we've got in common, and that's not true. We both work for the same company. We're both trying to help that company be successful. We're probably both trying to keep our jobs. We're probably both wanting our departments to be respected. We're probably both wanting our business to do well, to serve our customers well. To get some agreement. So at the start of the conversation, aside from saying, thank you for your time, agreeing how long the meeting's going to be for, even though you agreed it yesterday, and actually try to get some agreement. So agree that the customer is important. Agree that we're both trying to do the best things for the company. Agree that we both want our departments to feel respected. Agree that, if we work together as a team, we can achieve better outcomes. So try to find 3, 4, 5, maybe more things that you can agree at the start of the meeting. So just like you both did preparation, then you both agree a few key things. Now we've built, it might not be the strongest foundation in the world, but we've built a foundation to work from. Then, of course, you state your particular situation and the issues you thought that came up. And then you let them do the same. Now, here's the thing most people never do. Number 4, state back to each other what you thought they said. Because if you can't clarify what they said that the issue was, and they can't clarify what you think the issue was, then typically you haven't listened. And I'm sorry to say, one or both of you are probably being a little bit pig-headed and not tuning in the ears particularly well. So that's step 4, is something most people never do. Then, of course, once you've done that, then you can have your discussion. That's the platform. It's showing respect. Then you can have the platform talking about who said who to what to whom and when it happened. And that, again, this isn't what matters. What matters is, where are we going from here? What are the next steps? So you need to be the one on that next step 5, which is, okay, I understand that. Where to from here? I understand that. Where to from here? And they're saying, yes, but, taking you back to the past. And you're saying, I understand that. And where to? Another just word tip, please. Try to avoid the word but in any conversation with any human. Generally speaking, we use the word but to scratch the first part of the sentence. So if I say, hey, I love working with your team, but I didn't like the way you spoke to my team members last week, that means I don't really like the way you speak to my team, and here's the reason why. So again, but is a word to avoid, particularly when trying to resolve a crisis or conflict. Then once you've agreed it, then one of you needs to draw up the summary of not so much what was discussed, but more importantly, what was going to be agreed. And that's got to have deadlines on it, which could be dates and times. And you try to get that up and out as quickly as you can. It could be in the form of a text message, or better still, because it's semi-legal, in the form of an email. And then that way we then have to follow each other up and make sure we take accountability for that. So as I said before, step 4 is generally skipped over by almost everybody, which is a real shame. Step 5, we need to have an open discussion, and it needs to be future focused, not past focused. The past focus is the personal preparation phase. A lot of that's looking at the past. What's happened? Whereas the conversation is about how do we move forward together. So hopefully that's a bit of a guide. So in summary, I wanted to mention to you today, conflict is inevitable in most of your worthwhile relationships in your life, if not all of them, both personal lives, business lives, with suppliers, customers, but especially with colleagues, and even more so within the sales environment where there's a lot of pressure, a lot of measurement. Conflict can produce deeper relationships, higher levels of trust. It can produce amazing outcomes, amazing suggestions, amazing improvements, and sometimes they would not have come about without the conflict itself. So despite the fact that we don't want to make you create conflict, just expect that it's inevitable. So using those step processes is an easy way for you to take more of a lead. If this is an issue for other team members, remembering the fingers pointing in one direction means there's 3 pointing back to you, and you think this is a topic worthwhile to others, I'd strongly recommend share the workbook with them, get them to watch this video, and then have a discussion about it. Conflict isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just that conflict is often handled in a bad way, and it often doesn't get resolved. And then, of course, it eats away and festers away and spreads to other members of the organization. Now, this is along with the many topics, actually comes from our Sales Manager Accelerator program, as well as this being a topic of discussion in our Sales Accelerator, as well as a topic of discussion in our Sales Academy. So if you want to have a chat further about growing your business, growing your management skills, growing your confidence, please flick us an email to admin@salesmasterycompany.com. Let's have a chat about where you are now, where you're trying to go, so we can share our 19 years of experience coaching people in 25 countries around the world to help you accelerate your success. I've been Ambrose Blowfield with the Sales Mastery Company, and be sure to put this into place and take action.